So online video consumption, according to our guest today, has doubled in the past 4 years. With that number in mind, as you're listening and watching this episode of our video conversation here, as a viewer, do you think that number will be higher or lower in the next 4? Yet video is something that we shy away from. We don't do it, we don't like it, and we refuse to engage it or create it. So video matters, and I'm delighted that our guest today on our conversation has taken time out of his busy schedule to tell us all about video, how and why it's so important, where it fits in a B2B sales process, and how we can start getting over ourselves to start creating better content for our sales and marketing efforts. Alex Sheridan, it is a pleasure for me. So it's a pleasure for you. It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure for me
that you're joining us here for this conversation. Thanks so much for taking time. Please take a moment to introduce yourself, where you're joining us from, what you do, and how you help business owners.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Rob. My name's Alex, founder of Impacts Marketing. We're a video marketing company focused on social media, mostly short form video, but we do some long form too. And our thesis and kind of hypothesis is that we think that your video content should, yes, help you build a really strong brand in the marketplace, but it should also act as sort of a 24/7 sales rep for your business. And so I do some consulting and strategy myself. We've got a team of video editors, social media managers, and together we make that all come true.
Brilliant. And why video, Alex? Why do you focus so much on video? Where did your passion for video come from? Why are you focusing there?
So, I don't talk about this a ton, but I actually have a very deep passion for video content because it changed my life. It literally changed my life, because what happened was I was in B2B sales for 6 years, actually 10 years straight, but 6 years at one company for a big corporate company. And I was knocking on doors, I was cold calling, I was sending emails, doing all the things that a typical salesperson would do back in 2018, 2019. And I was always the hunter. Right. I was always having to go out and hunt down business. And as soon as I got in front of people instantly commoditized me. I was in a very competitive space. And it was like, all right, what are your prices? How much do you cost? And And, I was just like, I got to instantly separate myself. But I had to do it kind of on the meeting. And I really had to get good at trying to figure out, how do I separate myself? What questions could I ask? But it was done by time I was on the actual meeting. So when I thought about starting my side business and my own business as I was working this full-time job in sales, I thought, I'll be a sales consultant and I'll teach other companies how to grow their business, because I had a good career in sales. Everything changed once I started posting video content specifically on LinkedIn. Because one thing happened. I noticed that the light bulb moment went off and I go, oh my gosh, people are starting to come to me instead of me having to hunt down every single person. Actually, I saw customers that were coming to me and hitting me up in the DMs and sending me emails and saying, hey, you were talking about this strategy about X, Y, and Z. We'd love to learn more about that. How are you doing that? And then I started getting questions around, what's going on with LinkedIn? I see you posting all this content. It looks like you're getting good engagement. Are you driving in business from it? We'd love to talk to you about, we'd be interested in doing something like that too. How are you creating these videos? How'd you get your profile to look like that? What are some of the tips that you provide on LinkedIn? And so all these inquiries kept coming in. And so my thought process at that time was, you know what? I don't think it's the sales consulting thing. I think it's the video. I think it's LinkedIn. I think that, and we're stepping into a new era now where customers buy differently. The buyer journey has changed, right? Customers want to be educated. They want to figure things out. They want to do their own research. They want answers to their customers, or they want answers to their questions, which are your customers, right? So I thought the ability to be able to go out in the marketplace and provide content that was helpful, that answered their questions, that helped them through the process and give them the strategies, tactics, techniques, well, that would build trust, credibility for me and my brand. And it would also position me as I'm nothing like anyone else in the industry. I've got this one of a kind brand now, and customers would reach out, knock on my door, call me, email me, message me, and say, hey, we want to get you in. We want to talk to you. And when you enter the conversation from that standpoint, Rob, totally different conversation than coming in saying, hey, will you meet with me, versus them asking you to meet with them. You have so much more leverage. You increase win rates. And typically the sales cycles are just dramatically cut down.
Yeah, one of the things we often offer to our organizations that we work with is that sort of go slow at the start to move fast at the end. And I think that's what you mean by the the sales cycle's getting shorter there, because what you're mentioning is things that we recognize in markets that we work. Customers are more well informed. They knock on your door when they know they've got a problem.
Yes.
How much more refreshing must that be for a B2B sales professional, right? And I just wonder if you think, you mentioned your time frame of B2B sales was working 2018, 2019. Something happened in 2020, didn't it? Do you think that made the world of B2B sales turn overnight into a more buyer-led trend rather than knocking on doors like you were? Or was it going to happen anyway? Was these trends happening anyway that you were observing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like, the reality is things are just going to evolve as we, as society evolves, as new technologies come out, things of that nature. Like, we're going to see a progression, right? Right now, we're going through the AI phase where everyone's like real pumped about that stuff. But, video and social media, LinkedIn, we're bound to go through these changes, right? More people are going to get on, start using them. We were going to do more video calls. More people probably would have started working remote anyways. But what happened with COVID during the pandemic is it just expedited everything by probably 5 to 7 years. Honestly, it was a big jump. I mean, I had people coming to me like instantly, almost overnight, saying, "Hey, I used to call my customers. I used to do visits. I used to do presentations in person. Everything shut down. We have no clue when it's coming back. I don't know how to get a hold of people. I have no way to showcase that I'm, credible and their ability to trust me. I have no way to win new customers." And so instantly it was like video, LinkedIn, social media, creating content. It bumped everything up to the surface.
Yeah, we went for a meeting at an organization locally to us recently, and there was no receptionist. There was no door to knock on. We had to punch in a code that we had to email someone to say we're here. So you can't go door knocking like that. And I think it's really challenged the traditional sales professionals because they can't do what they've always done. So they have to almost learn new skills, but then those skills are often digital. And I don't know, in your experience, if you've seen that people try and shortcut that or cheat it, or they just don't see the power of it, or as you mentioned, they sort of defer to AI. I was talking about ChatGPT earlier today. That's all text-based stuff that in a way removes the authenticity of us, I think, potentially. Video can't do it. We can't hide behind AI in video, can we?
Not yet.
Not yet, no, until we start manipulating our faces now.
Yeah.
I guess there's a couple of things in that what I'd like to ask. I mean, is video a shortcut to success? And I guess what are the misconceptions around video that are preventing us making good video content for our potential customers?
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things on that. One, customers are 80% of the way through the buying process by the time they talk to a salesperson. So if you think that you're coming in and you're going to start, if all you're doing is cold calling and outreach and emailing and you're trying to knock on doors, well, by the time you get to somebody, they're potentially already through half, 70, 80%, like, in the stats show that's 80%. They're already closer to making that decision. So the question is as a salesperson, as a marketing team, as a revenue team through your content, how can you be a part of that 80%? Not that the salesperson comes in and now is like, all right, well, I'm here for the 20%. What do I close? As a salesperson, build your own personal brand, like leverage content from the revenue team, from the marketing team, from the content team, and use that to educate customers, to answer your customers' questions, and leverage that to get them 80%. And so they end up reaching out to you. Worst case, you reach out to them, but you've been the one that's educating them along the way. And then that's how you increase close rates and win rate, all that stuff, right? So the second thing I was going to say is like, if you think about how we did sales, you mentioned, the receptionist, and we used to knock on doors, and I remember walking into buildings and companies, and you probably know this too, like you'd bring donuts and right. And like, what did we do in sales? We tried to build trust and credibility and likability. That was what was most important that everyone talked about. So when you walked in, you had donuts, you talked to the receptionist, you built a relationship with him or her. Then you went in and you talked to the decision makers or influences of the decision makers. What did you do with them? You got to know them. You took them out to lunch, you took them out to dinner, you educated them on what was happening in the industry and what's taking place and things to look out for and how to solve their problems. Well, that whole process can now be done through content. And that whole process is different than it was 4 years ago, where sometimes there's not a reception. They're not going to give you the in-person meeting. People aren't at their phones all the time like they used to be. So the old school principles are still the same. Build trust, build credibility, build likability, and people are going to buy from you. And what's interesting is that like these new ways of doing that have evolved, and some companies just refuse to actually adapt the new way of doing things. So it's like, it's not like the actual strategy is still the same. It's just some of the tactics and how you go about doing it have evolved. And some companies have adapted that and they're winning big time. And some companies are still old school and haven't done any of it, and they're falling behind.
No, absolutely. I really like what you say there about the principles and the strategy stay the same. No, like, trust. Like you said, you take a box
that will never change in the history of the world. That will never change.
But
if you can position yourself as the most trusted and reliable brand in your industry through content, through showing your face, through answering customer questions, you're going to win. Like, and they may not even know that there's other competitors out there. I get people that reach out to me that they haven't Googled other video marketing companies most of the time. They're just like, I always see your content. Like I've gotten so many tips and strategies, and I started recording videos on my own because of you. And, you know, we thought that we're ready to make the next step and really want to partner with somebody. And you're the only person we thought of, you know? So you want to build a presence online and through your content where you're literally the only option that makes sense.
And you know, look at this conversation now. You know, we're collaborating on this conversation now because of the content that I've seen you posting out on LinkedIn, the networks that you're in.
And here's what's even cool. Like I was on a call today with a soon-to-be customer, and the reason we got connected wasn't because she saw my content. It was because other people were fans of my content and advocates of my content. And this person created a piece of content and said, hey, I'm looking to up my video game for 2023. Who do you know that's a good video marketer that, you know, specializes in LinkedIn and things like that? And several people jumped in and were like, you got to talk to Alex. Alex is the man. Him and his team do the best work. His videos are the best on LinkedIn. And so what you don't realize sometimes with content is it's not just I put out content, a customer sees it, they become a customer. It's all the conversations that are happening behind the scenes where people are talking behind your back in a good way. And those people are, if they're not customers, that's fine. Sometimes they're just raving fans, they're advocates, they're champions. And so don't just think like, oh, it's you know, you're putting out content for your customer. Yes. But oftentimes you put out valuable content that other people consume and really get a lot of either perspective or mindset or actionable insights, strategies. And those people go to war for you. They refer people to you. So that's the widespread kind of net of content that I don't think people realize.
No, I agree. There's almost a digital echo, isn't there? You post something into your network, but they can speak and speak and speak, and they'll bring people to you, and they will spy on you and do their independent research on you.
Yes.
And if your content is good and solid, nothing to fear. Like you say, 24/7 sales rep. I think it's a great hook in terms of the strength and potential that video brings. But I wanted to try and move into mistakes and pitfalls that sales professionals, specifically the individual, falls into. You know, one of those things that we observe is an individual will hide behind a corporate banner and simply share without context a corporate product launch. And they'll say, video doesn't work. Video's rubbish. We tried it once and it just simply doesn't work.
Yeah.
What other mistakes do you see that people might pick up on in this conversation from an individual sense that people just get it wrong in video? What are they doing wrong?
Yeah. Well, you definitely nailed it with that. Like most companies are way too focused on sales in their video content. And it's funny because we talk about your video content should be a 24/7 sales rep, but not in the way that you're pitching your products and services, right? So, you know, companies they have to stop thinking about video and content like we're going to create a piece of content and then it's going to convert into a sale. Because when you start thinking about, all right, we're going to create content, it's going to turn into sales, then instantly your mindset is not in the right place. You start going to, okay, well, if we're going to create sales from this, then we got to have an ROI, we got to track it. And then we got to figure out, okay, well, what can we post that's going to draw in a customer? We got to know, but they have to know what we sell. We got to talk about our product, our service. They start getting in this weird mindset that just completely hurts their reach. Their content doesn't perform and it doesn't close any deals. So you have to rethink why you're creating content in the first place. You have to get your vision and your why have to be stronger than, I hope we can convert some leads from this content. You have to start thinking about, how do we position ourselves in the marketplace as the most trusted, badass, freaking most credible, likable brand that there is, and sit down and think about, so, okay, so if we were going to do that, what would that look like? What type of content will we have to put out to become that? It's always about whether your life, business, who do we need to become to get the results that we want? And if we do all of that, our video content and our content in general is going to draw in a ton of customers and business opportunities, and it will become like a 24/7 badass sales rep for your company. So, I mean, that would be mistake number one, is that companies just go way too on the sales side. But secondly, they post the generic content like you talked about, right? And they post information. Information is a commodity, especially with AI now and Google and YouTube and TikTok. You've got information is everywhere. So think about, and I'll give a good example of this. Think about what happened with the news stations and the sports cast or the sports stations, right? ESPN, Fox News, CNN. Years ago, all they talked about, they reported news, gave it to the audience. They took news, reported it, gave it to the audience. Now, what is it today? It's a lot of personalities. It's a lot of perspectives, unique point of views. It's debate shows. Why is that? Well, because as consumers, information is everywhere. I can Google stuff if I want to know what's the first step in creating a video, right? How do I use LinkedIn to track, build my brand and attract clients? You can figure out where the information is. What your customers want is they want your unique perspective on the industry, and based on your experiences and your customer success stories and what's working right now, what's not. How do I use AI in my content versus what should I not use AI for? Like, these are the things that are really going to attract customers for you versus posting out a blog or a company article or sharing somebody else's posts with no insights from yourself. It's just information. It's not going to work.
No, absolutely. And I love that. It's echoing so much what, and I don't want to get into a backpatting session here, but it's echoing so much about what we talk about here with share insights, not just information.
Right.
Telling me a fact about your product, give the customer or the buyer nowhere else to go other than compete on price. Like you were saying in your B2B days. How much is it? Can you do it cheaper? They can do it cheaper. If you can build positioning and value through your, you should read this if, you should watch this if, in this video I will help you if, and call out the viewer potentially, does that start to add better positioning and insight rather than just a benign, this is my widget, it's £1.99, do you want some? We're so experienced. We're in business for 35 years. No one cares, do they?
Exactly. And also it's the complete opposite of pitching a product, because it's what customers want from your content is they want transparency, right? So I just did a video on the cost of creating video content. And I talked about not just what we do, not like, oh, here's what we cost and you should work with us. And if you go any other route, that sucks. And don't do that. Always buy from us. I was like, no, this is going to be a very transparent video. I'm going to lay out what it would cost, your time, the video production side, potentially the content management side. And I'm going to give you options. I'm going to tell you every single thing that you can potentially do, the pros and the cons. You could edit yourself. You could hire a freelancer. You could hire an agency. You could hire somebody internally, right? And I'm going to showcase the different options because that's what customers want. And companies got to think to yourself, like you have to think as a company, do you want to be the one answering your customers' questions? Or do you want your competitors to do that? Like, imagine showing up somewhere and be like, hey, like me and Marcus Sheridan were talking about this. Like, you show up to a conference and somebody comes up to you and goes, hey, I have a couple questions about like your industry and like what's happening right now. Could you help me out? And imagine you being like, no, but our competitors 2 tables down, they're answering all those questions, like about all the questions that you have on the industry. Go talk to them. It's like, who's going to convert the deal? Who's going to convert the customer? It's going to be the people that answered the questions because they've built the trust. They've built the credibility. They put in the work.
Yeah, just on that.
It sounds silly though, right? When you say it like that, it sounds really silly. Like you don't want to answer your customers' questions honestly and openly. So you don't think they're having these conversations in the boardrooms without you? You better believe they are. You better believe they're sitting down thinking, well, what are our options? Why don't we just edit ourselves? Why don't we hire a freelancer? Why don't we do this? What we should do research. Instead, I'm going to give them all their answers. And I'm going to do one of 2 things. One, they're going to get an answer that's not working with us, but I've just solidified myself and they trust me. So maybe they, like we talked about earlier, maybe they recommend me to someone else potentially in the future, or maybe they end up working with me down the line because they tried the other alternative. It doesn't work out like they thought they would, and then they hire me. Or best case scenario, they watch that video where I've answered their questions, and now boom, they're booking a call. I built so much trust and credibility. It's a no-brainer.
I love this topic of we can't answer that because I think when we hear it, we get live feedback. I think if you can compare the digital world to physical scenarios like you just did there, I think it helps the penny drop. But we've said many times, have you ever talked about price in your content?
Have I talked about price?
No, in generally speaking to our clients or customers. Why would we do that? Our competitors might see. And by not sharing this with them, what do you think that customer's going to do? If I want to know the price of anything, I'll find the price of something. If you tell me, that's going to annoy me.
Yes. Fear and insecurity are the reason that more great content isn't created. Oh, we can't talk about our price. Oh my gosh, customers will just completely base their decision off price. Oh, our competitors will find out what we're doing. They'll find out our prices. Oh, if we share our strategies, what if our competitors see it and they steal our strategies? You're operating out of a place of fear and insecurity. This is an abundant world. You need to go out and take yours, be transparent, be honest, give so much freaking value, give way more than you take, and you will get for the rest of your life. If you stay giving, you will stay getting. Stop being scared, put out the content that actually serves your customers. That's the freaking message right there, man.
And some people are brave enough to face up to the fact it's fear. I'm scared. I don't like doing it. And that's fair enough. You've faced up to it. Brilliant. But there's a few myths that I sort of want to try and have a bit of a to and fro on, because we hear, we could tell people your video consumption's doubled in the past 4 years. How do you consume content? I watch video. Great. Can you create some content? No, we don't do that in our industry. It's different. Our customers are different, they tell us. I haven't got the time. Imposter syndrome is another one. I don't know what to talk about. And you've mentioned it already, and I want to touch it back on it again. There's no visible ROI, so what's the point? Genuine things we hear, and I'd love it if we could spend a few minutes trying to dissect that. And if you've experienced those, how do you overcome those objections when you hear them from professionals who are often these up as genuine excuses not to dive in to video?
Yeah, so let's see if we can tackle most of them and help me and remind me if I miss them, but I'll just kind of take them one by one. First of all, I feel imposter syndrome and I feel down about my content all the time. It's very, like, literally just yesterday, I was like, oh man, my content's not as good. I got to give my content should be better. I need to talk about like different things now. Like, I'm like, man, did I really earn this? Did I really do a good enough job here? And like, what if it all comes crashing down? And like, what if it's not really real? And like, all just silly things inside my head. And what I go back to though, is like, that's probably your survival brain doing what it's supposed to do as a human being, which is to keep you safe. And so you got to think we're not humans of 2023. We're humans that were created many, many years ago. And so our brains were designed to, like, if we saw a bear or another tribe attack or a tree fall, our brains are designed to keep us alive. But in modern society, there's less of those like physical threats that could come out of nowhere in most places, but it's now psychological. It's now like, oh, if I create the video and no one likes it, what if I get kicked out of my tribe? What if no one likes me? Right. And so, what if it fails? Like, I don't want to try this new thing because it could be a disaster and I got to keep safe. I got to stay safe. So I can't do that. So I would say that you have to understand where that's coming from. And you have to understand that everyone goes through that, and they're lying if they tell you they're not. They haven't before. Right. So, I think that's so important to mention, is that like, there's no one that just has it all figured out. And if you're growing as a person, as a creator, as a business person, as a father, mother, whatever it is, when you're growing, that literally means that you're stretching and you're pulling apart and you're pushing yourself. And when you're doing that, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to doubt yourself. You're not going to be amazing in the beginning. So that is part of the process of creating video content that you just have to accept going into it. And then you build skills and you get better over time. And now I've been through this so many times that I can go, hey, It's just my imposter syndrome kicking in and things are fine.
Mm.
Tomorrow I'll feel better. And today I feel great. Right. So it's like, the other one was I don't have time to create content, and for me, when people say that, it's just one of two things. Like, number one, they don't actually see the value in what video content or content in general can do for their business. Like they literally just like don't believe that it's going to happen. Like they don't believe it'll do anything for their business. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that think that way nowadays in 2023, but there are some like, it's a waste of time. Social media is garbage. I don't want to do it. Right. So if that's the case, fine. Then just say that. Don't say don't have time. But the other side is people are they're not disciplined enough to make the time. And then the third thing would be that it's fear. It's insecurity. It's the fact that like, I don't have time, even though I'm like, I probably could squeeze in 10 minutes to make a video here, but I'm worried about what I should say and how it's going to land. And is it going to fail when I post it on LinkedIn? What if no one likes it? And so very normal thoughts that I think everyone has in the beginning. What were some of the other ones?
So I wanted to touch on, probably two biggies, actually. The first would be, it's different in our industry. And the second one would be about, there's no visible ROI. So what's the point?
Yeah. So I don't create content because we don't do that in my industry. I would love to come into a new industry where there was nobody creating video content. Like I would be so excited about that, because the thought process, like, nobody's doing it. And somebody asked me today, why aren't more people making video content in the industry? And I said, it's the same reason that more people aren't fit or healthy or in shape or doing the shit they know they should be doing, because it takes work. It takes commitment. It's uncomfortable. You're going to have to stretch. You're going to grow. So it's not like it's not some crazy mystery. If no one's doing video content in your industry, knowing that consumers now consume more video content, we doubled the video consumption from the last 4 years. So knowing that most things are now, just literally drive down the street. And when you stop at a stoplight, look to your left and look to your right. And here's what you'll see. Yeah. That's where people are. That's where their attention is, right? They're not looking around, doing this. And when an ad comes on TV or Hulu or whatever it is, or you're watching a football game, pay attention. Watch what people do. Look to the right, look to your left, and you'll literally see people pull out their phone and start doing this. And so it's it's just a fact, right? So if no one's doing it in your industry yet, and that's your excuse, that should be the opportunity. That shouldn't be the excuse. That should be, dude, this is our time. No one else is doing it. We're going to be pioneers. We're going to be freaking celebrities in our space. So that's my take on that.
What a great mindset shift that is. Yeah. If no one's doing it, it's not a threat or a risk. It's a massive opportunity. And you're right with the with the looking at your phones thing. I got my bus in to work today. And when I'm on the bus, I'm a people observer. I look.
Yes.
And if there was like 20 people on the bus, 15 of them, like you say, are probably doing this.
Yes.
Now, I think it might be a bit silly to assume that they're just looking at their private life, commercial, consumer stuff, and they wouldn't possibly be looking at the latest work trends on video whatsoever, because they park that until they get into the office.
Yes. Rob, it's gotten so bad that people, it's gotten so bad that people literally having anxiety if they're without their phone for more than 10 to 15 minutes. And you even feel that too, right? Where you're like, look, where's my phone? Like you got to check your phone. You got to check what's going on, your social alerts, your so it's like to say that doesn't matter, like to say that that's not a real thing is just insane. It's crazy. Right? What was the last one that you said?
No visible ROI. How do we know it's worth it?
Yeah. So, that's a very common one. It's like, well, if we create video content, like, how do we know what the ROI is, or can we actually measure an ROI? And the truth is, like, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, you should get clear with what the vision is. What do you want to accomplish with your content? Most people don't know the purpose of their content. They're like, oh, I'm going to put out content on LinkedIn to get awareness, so people know my face. It's like, that's not really a strong vision. It should be, like I said earlier, to become the most trusted brand in our industry, or to be known for X, Y, and Z, or to just build high levels of trust and credibility, likability with our customers, and truly serve them, give so much that they just can't help but buy from us, right? And so I think that's first and foremost, is like, you have to have that down. But once you get that past that part, there's definitely ways to track it. Now, in the beginning, let's say first couple of months, maybe first 90 days, the only thing that I'm looking for in terms of ROI for video content is what is the qualitative data that we're getting back? The same thing I would do if I started a podcast or a live show or anything. I just want to know, what are people saying? Are people commenting, people that are potentially decision makers, buyers, leaders in your industry, are they commenting and liking and saying things like, this is a really good perspective, I love how you explain that, or hey, I've got a question on this. Are you getting that type of reaction, or is there no reaction? Right. And then I would also beyond that and start to look at the quantitative data, which should follow if the qualitative data is good. If you're getting a good or a good sample size, and people are saying good things and sharing it and things like that, then that should lead to the quantitative data, right? So then it's like, now our likes and engagement are starting to increase. More people are sharing the content. We've just got an inbound lead, like our first inbound lead, and so I think that's how I'd look at the ROI of video content. But I would also say that don't just rely on the social media feeds and the algorithm. Take content that you create and bring that into the sales process. Like if you've got, talk to your sales team. People that are creating content should be sitting down with their sales team and say, hey, what's the common questions that come up? And would you be willing to do a video about X, Y, and Z and answer those questions? So then they can literally provide that content as they're having conversations with potential customers. So qualitative, quantitative. And I think if you're looking back and it's been 6 months and you're not seeing any traction, there's probably a problem. But if you're seeing traction over 90 days, 6 months, things are trending upwards, people are saying good things about it, they're recommending things, they're getting more engagement, then it's just a matter of time before some of that starts converting. Yeah. But it's not a, hey, we're going to post 3 videos and like, hopefully we get a sale out of that. That's not how video content works.
No. Create 3, sell 10. Woo, it's just not going to happen.
I mean, if it was that easy, geez, I'd be a billionaire.
So I like the alignment of sales and marketing as well. It's something we really try and advocate, speak to your marketing, feedback to them about things. So it's not just, here's a catalog, it's here's some insight to help you with your buying journey and buying decisions. I'm conscious of our time, so I just want to try and get a couple more.
You're good, man. No worries.
Points raised with you. You mentioned about the time issue and, I don't have time to create content. Now, obviously, your content creation, and I watched a video about this where you explained the process that you go through to create your engaging videos. So your bar's quite high because you have to prove the concepts and it's what you do. The bar in B2B industries is quite low, if non-existent whatsoever. So while we don't need to aim for fully produced short form content like yours, what's a good framework or tools needed to help a B2B professional who might be saying, I can't do that, I don't have the kit, I don't have the time, it's expensive. How can we squeeze it into those moments that we get? You mentioned 10 minutes.
So
to create short form content.
Good news for everyone watching this right now that wants to create video content. All you need is a smartphone. That's literally all you need. Now, if you want to upgrade, the one thing I would say, I would suggest that you upgrade the very first thing would be a solid mic. You could do a lapel mic like this. You could get a Rode mic, Yeti mic, whatever you want to use. But the audio does matter. And sometimes it's echoey. You're in a room, an office, you're outside. Like, upgrade the mic if you're going to do something. But the video quality on most smartphones now in today's era is so good that just can't be an excuse. You don't need a DSLR. Like, at some point, maybe you do, but you don't need it to start. In terms of editing and things like that, you can always upgrade later and advance later, but all you need right now is auto captions. LinkedIn provides free auto captions. TikTok provides free auto captions. YouTube, Instagram, they all provide free auto captions, and you can add a title up top or whatever you want to do. So the excuse of like, I don't have the right equipment to make video content just isn't valid in today's day and era or today's day and age. And so again, start and whatever you can get to start, great. And then you can always make progress and upgrade later. If you look at my videos from 2-3 years ago, they definitely weren't what they are today. So it's like, you got to start, and you can't let perfection get in the way of progress. So start, build skills, figure out what you like, what you don't like, and you can always upgrade later, but all you really need is a smartphone.
And is there, in terms of the hardware, absolutely. Yeah, we all have these. We spend all our days on them. We get anxious when we're not with them. In terms of a framework for creating a short video, let's say a 90-second video, 60-second, whatever it is, 2-minute video. What's a decent framework that people can try and use to avoid waffle, to avoid just going off on and saying nothing at all? Is there a structure that people can put in their mind's eye to think, right, I need to follow this, this, and this to help create engaging content? And would you mind sharing anything around that from your experience?
Yes. So I always kind of been dabbling with this phrase of like the 3 commandments of video content, and like probably do an edutainment video on like a God type theme there. I think there's something to it, but you know, I look at it like this, like these are, when I look at review videos from customers before they become customers, and I just look in the feed every day and see videos, there's 3 big mistakes that people make with video. The first one is, and I'll call it the three C's to make it easier. The first one is capture attention. You have to hook people in the first second or 2 of the video. I promise you, you don't have time anymore. There's no time for a fancy intro to pop in with your logo and music and this and anime. They're gone. Their freaking fingers are poof, and they're on to the next video, right? You also don't have time to say, hey guys, my name is Alex and I'm the poof, gone, right? So you've got to get right to the point. So what is it that you want to communicate to your audience? The second part of that is that the second C would be clarity and just clearly communicate. So you can't, if you confuse people, you lose people. If you go on this tangent and this long thing and it's very confusing and people are going, the hell is this dude or girl talking about? I don't even know. They're gone, right? They're not going to pay attention to it. And the last C would be create value. So you have to be able to post something that is valuable to your audience. And that could be answering their customers' questions. That could be providing a new perspective on something that they haven't heard before. It could be teaching them a step-by-step, strategy or tactic to get better results. It could be an edutainment video where you're talking about the 3 C's or the 3 commandments of video content. It could be any of that stuff, right? It could be a rap battle, right? But as long as it's providing some level of value in the form of education, edutainment or, inspiration, motivation.
Brilliant. So capture attention, speak with clarity and know your message, and create value. Yep. Through answering the questions, not just talking about yourself, which is, my God, it's a pitfall. When people talk about how experienced their companies are, it's just, it winds me up.
So bad.
It really winds me up. I mean, that's, yeah, you should do a video around that. I can see your content now. The 3 commandments of creating good video. Yes. I love that. Alex, just to round us off here as we head to close, what does the future of video look like in a B2B space?
Well, I think, it's hard to predict the future of what it's going to look like several years from now because technology advances so fast. But I think the reality of this, what I can tell you what's going to happen in 2023 for sure, is more B2B companies are going to get serious about video. It's just like, as you see the evolution of LinkedIn, it gets more and more popular. TikTok becomes more popular. Video becomes more popular. More companies, we're already starting to see it, right? So the space is going to get more competitive and more crowded. So you got to ask yourself, like, do you want to start now when there's not as much competition? Or do you want to start when everyone's doing it? And now you're like, shit, I feel like we're behind, right? So it's definitely going to get more crowded and competitive. I would say that brands are going to look for unique ways to separate themselves out. Answering your customers' questions is great, but at a certain point, a lot of people are going to start doing that, and then it becomes a commodity. Right now, you've got your own perspective, and so there's some nuances there that are still important to share. But then you're going to see more things like edutainment, and people are going to get creative with how they make the videos. How can I somewhat entertain somebody as I'm delivering a good message? That could be done with editing. That could be done with the actual creator and getting creative. It could be done a lot of different ways. But I think people are going to inject fun into their B2B content, which sometimes is just dramatically missing from content. The last thing I'll say, well, 2 more things. B2B influencer marketing is going to be much, much bigger this year in the coming years. We saw it in B2C for a long, long time, pretty much as long as social media has been around. It's now starting to pop up in B2B. Even I've gotten offers of people like, hey, if you mention this in our post, we'll pay you a few $100. And I haven't accepted it, but even getting those offers and seeing those types of things come up for other creators, it's happening. And it can be a very smart tactic and strategy if you do it the right way. You get the right pricing and the right, agreement down, and you get the right influencer. it can generate business for a company. So it's smart. Sometimes it's underpriced attention. The last thing I would say is that AI, and I think from video, I think it's going to impact more of the copywriting and the text and that side of things. And it already is, obviously, right? It's going to go way heavy that way first, because to your point earlier, it's harder to impact the video. Now we'll see it in editing, and we already are seeing it in editing, where you deliver a video and AI like adds B-roll or text or something, but it's pretty basic. It definitely can't do what we can do in our personalized videos. But I think more and more it'll start evolving, and you'll see more AI in video editing and video creation. I tried out something a couple of weeks ago where you take a picture of yourself, you input it in, and then you voice record, and then it actually spits out a video of you saying the recording.
Wow.
But when I played it back, man, if I showed it to you, it's rough. It's rough. And it's just like the body's like this, the mouth is moving, blah, 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 you know, but of course that's going to get better. That's going to get better with time. But I think there's such a human component to seeing people and being on video. That's like, that piece is harder, very hard to replicate through AI, but AI will help us create the content. I heard a good quote I heard a good quote today that said, AI is not going to replace your job. It's a human that knows how to use AI that's going to replace your job. And I think that's it, right? It's like humans are going to continue to do our thing and be humans, but we're going to use AI, technology, other things that come up to help us do our jobs better and to create better content and accomplish our goals.
Yeah, super. I mean, I think we can both agree video's going nowhere. It's going to get more. It's only going to become more. So if you're not on the video train, it's, get on board. It's you're going to be left behind. And Alex, if those watching, listening, wanted to get in touch with you, connect with you, find out more about what you do, just engage with your content, because it's super watching, it is edutainment. How can people find you? Where can we get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's the best place, so send me a message, connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn, engage in my content there. I'm always talking about video marketing, how to create better content, LinkedIn stuff, TikTok stuff. TikTok's another good one. I've got longer form videos on YouTube now. It's going to be a big strategy and play for us going into 2023. We've got the podcast, Brand in Demand. And so those would be the best ways. Super.
Alex, listen, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been a great chat. Really, really good fun. Nice to actually spend some time having a natter about video and get to know you a bit more. So listen, stay in touch. We're in each other's networks, and I look forward to learning more from you as we go on the power of video. Alex Sheridan, you're a legend.
Likewise, brother. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.